Hello, everyone. I've been trying to do this too many times today, and I've had nothing but problems. And I hope I can get through this one before the battery runs out, so that it gets up today. But if not today, it'll be up there tomorrow. Um, so I just wanted to give a brief talk about the prompts that you're going to write about this time. Is the same as last time. You want a really strong, healthy 7 to 9 sentence paragraph on each of the 5 prompts with which you have to work. There's going to be 9 of them, so you have to study broadly. Some overlap a bit, but you can always move in different directions. The first one, I mean, that's it's going to be jumbled in the thing, but these discuss the significance for comics or sequential art of Alt Spiegelman's comic Raw, which we talk a lot about. Um, and you'll find, of course, there's information in the Power of Comics you can look at, or something else we've looked at closely, Harvey Pekar, in terms of the significance of the underground comics movement, and especially the seriousness, the subject area, and things along those lines that found their way into graphic novels. And Mouse uses a lot of masks, and you want to look at them because they're not as always um, as indicative or easy. For instance, uh, you find when the father of Vladek is trying to find his way, and secretly he'll put on a pig mask so that he looks Polish. But of course, the Jews are mice, so they may live in Poland, they may be citizens of Poland, but obviously they're not seen as Poles, and that's one of those indicators there. But other times, like with the psychiatrist, is wears a mouse mask, and think in terms of when Art Spiegelman himself uses a mouse mask, um, which he doesn't throughout the story. But when we find him feeling so guilty and whatnot, in that wonderful panel with all the dead mice around him, he says, "I want my mommy." And speaking of Mama, Anya, Anja, what does she play for you? What role does she play in the story? And you can take that from Art's perspective, including things like when he calls his father a murderer. uh, but she's absent for most of it. And remember, the convict one, the spread that predated Mouse, and I don't know that it didn't appear at first, included it later. Spiegelman did in one of his books about comics movement. Um, but the one about his mother, remember, appears. It's the one that the father saw, um, where Art portrays himself as a prisoner. One of the more interesting things we've talked about all semester, really, and I'm sure you'll find lots to say about it. In Understanding Comics, which we did not read, but McLeod writes that nowhere is the balance between the visible and the invisible more conspicuous than in pictures and words. And this balance, but it's an invisible and visible. Discuss the quotation in terms of class discussions and another of his comments. Creator and reader are partners in the invisible creating something out of nothing, time and time again. It's one of the great hallmarks of this medium, uh, which includes things like closure, of course, and panels. Now, we did read Fun Home, and you can discuss the significance of the title of Alison Bechdel's memoir, Fun Home, a Family Tragic Comic, in terms here of the mother's role, which is implied a lot of the times because she concentrates on her father and then in turns writes a whole um, graphic novel about her mother. Or address what strikes you as the significance of the final panel of the father on page 7. And this one is either or. It was his passion, and I mean passion in every sense of the word, and we had a good discussion about that. Um, the narrator of Fun Home, in the story about her father, and she and her sibling. This is the importance of for the narrator, not of the narrator, but for the narrator of the story about her father. She and her siblings, her 2 brothers, asked the grandmother to repeat, and think too in this terms about what the narrator has to say when she visits her father's grave in this context. Nice areas for development there. I put one question in for Utterzaken, and I really like this story, and I'm sorry we didn't have more time to spend on it, but there's always the case that you in these kinds in classes where you have a bunch of books that one doesn't get as much attention as others, and but it overlaps wonderfully well with talk about a family growing up, and then of course with Mouse. Um, but and in Zunzudaka, this discuss the significance of the father, and for what strikes you as central ideas in the graphic novel, the poetic father, um, and is crushed in the ghetto, or what we would call New York, in this particular place where the Jews lived and tried to make a life. It is no golden road. Now, I did put in two prompts taken from Joe Sacco's book that we really started discussing before the end of the semester, but it carried over. And um, look here, address the manner in which Joe Sacco presents himself on the final page, number 24, of the first chapter of Palestine. And this will um, we talked about this, and it'll rack your memory, but you'll also be able to make other connections with parts of the story we hadn't read at the time we looked at this. And another one, and I hope no one gets both of these, but there's room to move here. The other one, in much of Palestine, Joe Sacco presents himself in a rather self effacing manner, unusual, or some might even argue inappropriate for most objective journalism. Discuss the effectiveness of his approach in terms of what happens on page 137 of the chapter Women. Um, Important the way he engages us and gets us to sort of walk side by side and look through the author's eyes. And then uh, this important thing that goes on throughout the story. Um, but I picked two small incidents there that you can relate to the rest. Now, those are the prompts from which you'll write on 5. So if you study hard and write out nice, strong paragraphs about the significance of all of these, you'll be in really good shape for the final, which you can start accessing Monday night. We will not meet as a class. I will be around until Thursday late morning. So if there are any questions, you'll have no trouble getting in touch with me, and we'll figure everything out. Okay? Um, Thank you all. I really enjoyed class this semester, and I look forward to seeing others of you in classes in the future, including World Literature to 1500.